बिस्मिल्लाहिर्रहमानिर्रहीम। दुरूद व सलाम हो मोहम्मद व आले मोहम्मद पर। अस्सलाम वालेकुम नाजरीन। हैदर टीवी कनाडा के प्रोग्राम एनरूट कनाडा के साथ मैं हूं आपका मेज़बान फर्रुख अब्बास। नाजरीन, गुज़िश्ता प्रोग्रामों में मुख्तलिफ इमिग्रेशन के हवाले से गुफ्तगू हुई और आज भी हमारे मेहमान अली नकवी साहब हमारे साथ मौजूद हैं। अस्सलाम वालेकुम अली।
वालेकुम सलाम फर्रुख अब्बास साहब, कैसे मिजाज हैं? आपको और आपके नाज़रीन को अस्सलाम वालेकुम।
वालेकुम अस्सलाम।
किया है तो फिर ये Canada and how students and alumni of DHS Sofa University can become engaged in such a process where their career, their professional development, and their settlement can count towards Canadian entity here as in Pakistan and in Canada. So it gives me immense pleasure to be joining your institute and sharing my thoughts as well as the current scenario that is developing here in Canada for your consideration. So if we can have the presentation, do you want me to share that or you would like to share that? Maybe I can share the screen as well.
Yes, you can share the screen and the presentation.
Okay, that's fine. So can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see the screen and we can see the slides.
Okay, so let me just make it a full screen now. I think it's full screen now, right?
Yes, it's full screen now.
Okay, so the topic that we selected for the discussion today is Canadian education and settlement prospection after COVID-19. And specifically, we will be focusing on what are the requirements, how the policy has inculcated the development of Canadian education programs to Pakistani students and those who have graduated. Our focus will not just be about education, but it will be further to education. What are the opportunities that may arise or that you may look upon once you graduate, after you graduate from your institution to Canadian immigration. So moving the ball here, my name is Faizan. I'm a Juris Doctor in LLM. I'm a barrister and solicitor in Canada with over 10 years of working experience in 3 jurisdictions. I'm also a regulated immigration consultant for more than 7 years. And I also teach law and specifically immigration and citizenship program at colleges here in Canada. I have had the opportunity to come and visit some of the institutions in Karachi. Last time I was at Iqra University 3 years ago on their invitation, and at that time we shared the news of Pakistan becoming part of the SDS stream. But since 2019, the COVID pandemic has taken over the frailties of the Canadian immigration and the education system here. And not much of the students were able to take advantage of the SDS stream. But today we will give you a short briefer about what the SDS stream holds for Pakistan and how things are improving or can change in the coming foreseeable future, next 3 months, for all of you to take advantage from. So what are the eligibilities? Now we're focusing on a student here as I note in DHS Sufa University, engineering programs, including mechanical, electrical, computer science, these programs are very highly in demand. So therefore, in DHS, there is an echo, I think. So these programs are in demand. So we'll focus from these programs moving forward to our presentation. So what is an eligibility for a student to be qualified here in Canada? The first thing is that this process is divided in 2 stages. First stage is the admissions stage, and the second stage is the application, the visa stage. So starting from the eligibility requirements, you must be enrolled at a DLI, Designated Learning Institution. Now, when a student applies to any college or university here in Canada, he is of the opinion that I may be accepted and I can apply for a visa to come to Canada. In fact, that is not the case. You must have an offer from a designated learning institution. Not every institution here in Canada is a designated learning institution. Only a list of about 700 institutions have been published by the Immigration Canada on its website. I'll share the link and I'll show you. That deals with institutions, that deals with programs that are eligible for international student intake. So once an institution is designated as a DLI, only then it can accept international students. So very important once you are selecting your institution or your area of program to know that the institution you are going for is a designated learning institution. Otherwise, you will not be allowed you will not be granted visa. And what if your institution was in process of getting a DLI number? You would still not be eligible to make a visa application for Canada. So that is your first eligibility that you need to keep in mind in terms of your process to Canada. Second step, have enough money to pay for your tuition, living expense, and return transportation for yourself. The rule of thumb on this particular process or this particular point is that a minimum of $15,000 accumulate to a yearly finance for a student in Canada. That's a rule of thumb. It's a standard practice or understanding in the industry that if a student can reflect a minimum of $15,000 for his 1 year expenses, that should account for the living expenses. Secondly, the tuition fee is dependent on the institution and your arrangement with the institution. Sometimes the institutions are looking for a full first term fee as it is. The first full year you pay it out. Sometimes institutions offer a staggered approach, which is an installment approach. So they may ask for maybe 50% at the time of getting the offer, 50% at the time of landing in Canada. So it's something that a student can work out with the institution, and that can be sorted out. And finally, return transportation for yourself. Now, that is something you can reflect to your savings or an undertaking that this is the amount of money that I will be keeping for myself. Whenever I need to travel back to my home country, I can arrange for this money. So a rule of thumb, summarizing it, tuition fee, either pay upfront or pay in installments. It's an arrangement that you can settle with the institution. Living expenses, a minimum of $15,000 a year. And return transportation is your undertaking or a statement that you can reflect for your travel expenses if you want to go back to your country. Third requirement, have no criminal record and get a police certificate. Now, in the STS stream, which I'm going to discuss just a few minutes later, police certificate is a mandatory requirement which supplements the application. 2 items which are very important, a police certificate and medical examination. If you are able to provide it in advance, you are able to apply for the visa right away. So but I would always suggest that whenever you're getting ready for your application to apply for Canadian study permit program, you should get your police certificate and medical exam right there and then, because I know in Pakistan it takes some time to get the police certificate issued and also the medical examination. And I don't know what is the current situation with COVID, whether they allow in-person applications or not, but generally that's something which can be worked out previous or initially before making the application. Finally, prove to an officer that you will leave Canada when your study permit expires. So when you get an offer, this is a very tricky question that comes up to, all my clients. I've seen them having to, battle this particular point. How to prove to an officer that you will leave Canada after the expiry of your study permit, where there are programs that we will also discuss today that are immigration programs right after you graduate. So once you graduate, you can apply for immigration. The point of this particular requirement in law is that you reflect to the officer that at that point in time when you're making the application, you have no intention to use your study program as a route to get to immigration. Eventually, you can get to the immigration path, but this point at this current situation, you're only focused to come to study in Canada and return back, gaining the experience to your own country or wherever you want to lead in your profession. So these are 5 key eligibilities that you need to keep in mind. Now, one thing which you would note I have not put here is IELTS. And specifically, I will discuss about IELTS in the context of SDS as we go forward. Okay, moving forward. What is the SDS? What do we call SDS? In 2019, in the end of 2018 and starting 2019, Pakistan was placed in the student direct stream. There are only 7 countries throughout the world that are placed in this particular list of special intake for students from Canadian government, where the ratio of students applying is higher. Pakistan was added to this list as the latest entry in 2018, and the first intake of SDS started in March 2019. Unfortunately, COVID hit in October, so not much of response or not much of output could be gauged for the COVID-19 because of the COVID-19 for the SDS stream. But we're going to exemplify how SDS can be relevant for you and moving forward to fellows who would want to apply in future. So there are a few requirements of the SDS stream. These requirements are separate from the general eligibility requirements. So you can apply in the normal route, which is non-SDS stream, or you can apply in the SDS requirement stream. That's your choice. And that is precisely why we believe that Pakistan has an advantage. If you meet all these 8-9 requirements, you are eligible to apply and have your response, your case decided faster than the normal procedure. So what is the SDS requirement that we are discussing so much? Firstly, you must be legal resident and living in Pakistan. So if you are living, for example, in the United Arab Emirates or the Saudi Arabia or any other country, but you are a citizen of Pakistan, you cannot apply in the SDS stream. You need to be residing in Pakistan and be a citizen of Pakistan to apply for this stream. Number 1. Number 2, acceptance from a post-secondary institution, which is a designated learning institution. As I discussed with you in detail, what is a designated learning institution? Similarly, here we are discussing that you must have an offer from a DLI institution. It should be a post-secondary offer, which is college or university. Third is the tuition payment proof for year 1. I will discuss in detail what is considered to be the proof of payment, but we are focused that you have the confirmation from your institution that you've paid the first year's fee for you to apply on the SDS stream. Thirdly, guaranteed investment certificate of $10,000, GIC. Now, this is a very important factor, and I will also explain how can you establish a GIC with the banks here in Canada for you to have a proof applying in the SDS stream. Then the medical and police certificate, as I mentioned before, these should be done beforehand so that you are not scampering for documents at the last moment. And if you have these together before, you can apply straight to the SDS stream. transcript of the secondary or post-secondary school. Your institution becomes very important resource for you at this point in time, because you can go to your registrar office and get all your transcript from any other institution you had attested and notarized from the registrar office and submitted for your application in the SDS stream. And finally, English language testing, scores of 6 and higher in all 4: reading, writing, speaking, and listening. Now remember, many will be talking to you saying, oh, we've got the offer from the college or institution where they did not require our IELTS score. Very right, because IELTS is not a requirement of the institution or an offer. It's the requirement of the visa program, the application for visa. So don't get entangled with a discussion that, oh, do we need to go for IELTS, or do we need to go for, we don't need an IELTS for our admission. You do not need an IELTS for admission, but the requirements of the institution will guide you what is needed at that time. Maybe you need IELTS, maybe you need A-levels English, or you need a certificate from your institution certificating that your academic program was all in English. So you don't need an IELTS for your offer. But when you're applying for the visa to Canada under the regular stream or the SDS stream, you will need to have an IELTS with minimum score of 6 in all 4 categories. Not just 6 altogether, but 6 in reading, writing, speaking, and listening. So keep in mind that these 7-8 elements combine for you to be an eligible candidate for the SDS stream, which is the student direct stream. Now, what is the advantage of the SDS stream? I mean, we are all discussing SDS, student direct stream. Pakistan has an advantage of being there. What is the real advantage that you get? The first advantage is that you get faster processing by giving your biometrics and meeting all the eligibility. So if you meet your eligibility and give your biometrics, you get the faster processing. And what is faster processing? That your case is decided generally within the 20 days, 20 calendar days. So that is, keeping that in mind, SDS becomes a very important resource for you to utilize moving into your academic portfolio for Canada. Moving forward, I mentioned to you in this previous slide of SDS requirements that I will discuss in detail about the guaranteed investment and the tuition fee payment. Here I have elaborated it under key considerations. What you need to know or what you need to consider once you have these requirements compliance. Proof of full payment of tuition for year 1. Only these 4 items or requirements of these 4 items combine you to be concerned and satisfied that you have complied with the requirement of what the government is asking. First, a receipt from your DLI. Your institution, your college, your university must issue you an official receipt. Second, an official letter from the DLI confirming the payment of tuition fee. Of course, when they issue the receipt, they shall also issue a letter for you to submit to the government for visa application. Number 3, a receipt from bank showing that the tuition fee have been paid to DLI. The receipt from your bank, the bank that is remitting the fee to the institution, that will be required for you to reflect that the fee has been paid and the institution has received the payment from you. And number 3, finally, proof of the tuition fee amount has been transferred into a repository account at the DLI to be applied to tuition bill at a later date. Now, this is something that your institution can give you. Proof that they have received the fee and they have placed it in a repository so that they can place it to your tuition bill at a later date. These are the requirements for you to present the proof of payment of tuition for the year 1 for visa application. Secondly, we discussed about the GIC, Guaranteed Investment Certificate. Only listed banks are eligible to provide the GIC certificate. I'll share with you the list right after. A letter of attestation should come from the bank, a GIC certificate, an investment directions confirmation or an investment balance confirmation, and finally hold the GIC in an investment account or a student account that you cannot access until you arrive in Canada. This is a very important point. Do not send out that money, which is $10,000 of a GIC, to any savings or current account. It must come to a specific GIC investment account for you to have the GIC certificate and apply for Immigration Canada. Now, let me share with you the list of institutions that can accept the that are accepted as the institutions for GIC. So here it is. If you see, I'm directly at the government's website, and I've also listed out the details for you. But the financial institutions that offer the GIC specifically within Canada, I would propose, are Bank of Montreal, BMO, Canadian Imperial Bank of Commerce, CIBC, Desjardins, Pakistan's Habib Canadian Bank, that's another one you can look at, HSBC, RBC, Royal Bank of Canada, Scotia Bank, Simply Financial, and SBI Canada Bank. So these are the few institutions that can offer services to Pakistani students specifically. I've had experience of dealing with them specific to Pakistan, and they are really helpful in that regard. So going back to our slideshow and discussing the requirements